Okay, so this is the last chapter. I'm sure Lynn is very excited. This is the last chapter, and very soon you won't see me again. Alex, you don't have to deal with this professor anymore after this. Anyway, so chapter 11 is very interesting because it's about what you do when you work in a company if you work in IT, right? If you work in IT, you work at the help desk and you do a lot of support. I'm sure Sam has talked to you about that before, about, support, customer service, and things like that. Um, when I started out in IT, I didn't know a lot of stuff. I didn't know a lot of stuff. I was always not sure of what I was doing. And my boss never liked answering questions. So I don't ask him questions. Because when I ask him a question, he would just look at me like, what are you talking about? So I had to go and find out myself, right? So I learned a lot of things the hard way, the hard way. Sometimes I go for a meeting of IT people, and after the meeting, I have no idea what they were talking about because they use all this IT, they talk about, IP address, DHCP, DNS. I have no idea what they're talking about, right, Alex? So it took me time to learn, but I learned. I mean, I'm a very good learner. Thank God, I'm a very good learner, and I started from being an intern in that company, and after 8 years, I ended up as the director of the IT department. So IT, you can learn IT, you can get used to things. So a lot of things we've talked about in this course, software and hardware, printers, drivers, websites, security, all that stuff, databases. This is something that you might need to do or help somebody else with in a company. They want to know, how do I know if this website is secure? They ask you for my username and how do I, my password, can I just write my password and put it on my computer? Or, they have an SQL database and they're trying to, use a select statement or delete, things that we've done before. Or somebody wants to install their keyboard, they want to install their mouse, or they need to update their drivers, right? So as you can see here, so they call this business continuity and computer support. That's what this chapter is about. Computer support, right? Being able to support your employees and co-workers to do what they have to do. You see, the job of an IT person is to help somebody else do what they need to do. That's your job. If the staff are happy with you, then you're doing your job, right? If the staff are happy with you, so you can see what it says here. Just the first few bullet points here. Troubleshooting. IT people, especially if you work at the help desk, a lot of your work is troubleshooting. What is troubleshooting, May?
Like solve some kind of computer problem.
Exactly. Like if you see trouble, you shoot it down. Troubleshoot. Shoot trouble. You get rid of trouble, right? So trying to solve some kind of IT problem. Even if you can't solve the problem yourself, you go and find out how it can be solved. You ask somebody else. You go and do some research online. right? So right here, it looks like here are some things that are involved in troubleshooting here. Everything you see here. Knowing how to identify the problem, right? Knowing how to identify the problem. What is the problem? Somebody calls you and says, May, I don't have internet on my computer. I need to work on my computer. What's going on? May, come and help me. Come down from IT and come and help me out here. And then May will come down and say, I don't know. I can't help you. I don't know what's wrong. Call Alex. Right? And then they call Alex. Alex has gone to lunch. Say, well, Alex has gone to lunch. May, you have to help me out here. Right? So, if you identifying the problem, it involves being able to gather information. Ask questions, right? Now, if somebody calls you, May, and says, let's say Lynn calls you from the office and says, hey, May, you're in IT, right? Come and help me fix my computer. I have no internet. You've got to be able to ask Lynn questions like, okay, tell me what happened. What happened? Did you have internet before? Or you've not had internet the whole day? Do the other guys in the other office have internet, or is it just your computer? Right? What were you doing when your internet went out? Were you watching Netflix during office hours? Were you on Facebook? You got to ask, you got to be able to ask questions so you have an idea. Maybe it's like when you go to, if you drive, and you go to the mechanic, they're going to ask you all these questions about your car. What happened? It doesn't work. Or if there's something wrong with your bank account, you're going to call your bank and they're going to ask you questions. So you have to gather information. You have to duplicate the problem. What does that mean? Duplicate the problem. Alex, what does it mean by duplicate the problem? Part of the troubleshooting steps.
Maybe understanding where the problem comes from. I mean, the root of the problem.
Duplicate. The word is duplicate the problem.
Copy of the problem.
Well, so what do you mean by copy the problem? What does that mean?
Means it's saving the problem, or we have a backup of the problem.
You have a backup of the problem?
Duplicate means for recovery purpose. Duplicating means making another copy of it, right? Duplicate.
I just told you guys.
They're giving a solution for the
Say it again, Couch.
short-term solution giving like that.
Previously, arranged same problem.
Say it again, Anjuman.
Previous time, another time arrange same problem.
Okay, I just told you guys that when you see a word in IT, the word might mean something different. So Anu just said duplicate means to copy. Well, in normal English, you're right. But when we talk about duplicating the problem, you can't copy the problem. So duplicate the problem means recreate the problem. So if somebody says, for example, I went to this website, I clicked on this button, and it shut down my computer, right? You have to go to another computer and see if the same thing is going to happen.
Yes.
Duplicate, recreate the problem, recreate it, right? See if you can experience the same thing yourself.
again and again.
Exactly. So that's what it means by duplicate. If somebody said, well, I tried to install this mouse, and when I plugged it into my computer, the screen started freezing. So take that mouse and see if you can plug into another computer. Maybe you see the same problem. It's all part of troubleshooting. Now, why is it important to do that? To recreate the problem, Anu? Why do you think? Why are we doing that?
To know the problem, how it is giving you trouble, to know the solution.
You can get the idea of how to get
To track it.
Wait, sorry, 1 second. I'm getting so much feedback here. Can you guys mute if you're not talking right now? Why there's so much feedback? Somebody's talking in the background. What's going on? I don't know who it is. Anyway, what was I saying? So yeah, I know the question was, why is it important to recreate the problem? Now, sometimes you're trying to figure out, is it this computer that has a problem? Or is it maybe all the computers in the office? So if you try that problem, right? If this computer, maybe that person who called you, right, Anu, they have a problem, and you try it and say, okay, well, let me go to my computer and try the same thing. If you go to your computer and try the same thing, maybe you don't see that problem. So okay, maybe it is this employee, maybe they have a problem on that computer. It's not a general problem, right? So that's why you have to sometimes recreate the problem to see if, is it this computer? It's like, how, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, May. Maybe you're at home and there's a power outage. The first thing you do is you look outside. Is it just my house or is it everybody? You know what I mean? Yep. So you want to know if it's just you or if it's the neighbor. Now, if it's all the neighbors, then you're like, okay, well, let's just wait. Maybe they're fixing something. If it's just your house, you're going to be like, we have a problem here. What is going on? All the neighbors have power, so something is wrong in your house. So that's what we mean by recreate the problem. Is it just this computer? Or maybe a website. Somebody calls you and says, Alex, I can't get to this website. This website, what is wrong? Then you say, okay, let me check a different website. If the other websites are fine, maybe that website has a problem. It's not like all websites have a problem. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean by recreate the problem. See if you can duplicate the problem, duplicate it, and then it will give you some kind of an idea of what is going on. Okay, question users. Lane, what does that mean? Question users. Number 3, I think.
The user got problem.
What? Question users. What does that mean? Go ahead, Lynn.
Just like the user got problems.
Okay, give me an idea of what kind of questions you're going to ask. Or that you can ask, depending on the problem, right?
What? I have no idea.
What do you mean you have no idea? Okay, let me ask you something. If somebody comes, let's say, do you have a dishwasher? Lynn?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's say your dishwasher stops working.
Mm-hmm.
And you call Home Depot or whatever, and they send somebody, or you call Best Buy, right? And they send someone to your house.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to ask you any question?
Yeah.
Like what? Like, what's your name? What's your favorite movie?
Like after what's problem with the dishwasher?
And what are you going to say?
I say it's not working.
Then they ask you another question, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, okay, did you put plates inside? Did you put a cup inside? What happened? They're going to ask you, then you answer, then they ask you, then you answer. They're trying to see maybe, you see, there is no technician that's going to just know what the problem is. Like, they just know the problem. No, they can't just know the problem. You have to ask the person,
Mm-hmm.
What happened? If somebody says, my keyboard is not working, help me. You say, well, did you plug it in? Let me tell you the story. This is a true story, right?
Mm.
My CEO of my company, right? You know the CEO, Lynn,
Mm-hmm.
the big boss?
Mm.
The CEO called me to his office. I'm sure I've told you guys this story before, maybe not. He said, my computer doesn't work. Nothing works. I said, okay. He said, you see, the monitor is black. Nothing works. So I said, okay, did you turn on the computer? He said, what do you mean turn on the computer? Like, that little button, did you press that button? He said, no. Am I supposed to do that? Yes. Press the button. So I pressed the button, and the monitor came on, and he said, wow, how did you do that? He was surprised. Alex looked shocked, like, the CEO didn't know how to do that.
How did the CEO use the computer before?
Good question, right? I should have asked him that question, like, hey, you dumb CEO, how did you use the computer before? Right? Well, see, when you're on the job, right, you have to be kind to people who you're working with, right? IT people always say that people are stupid. Like, oh, that girl is just stupid. She doesn't know how to use her computer. That's wrong. See, Kaush, if you take your kids to the doctor, right, and you say, oh, doctor, this child, the temperature is like 110 degrees. This child is really sick. Help me out. Doctor says, well, just give this child this little pill and the child will be fine. And you give the child the pill and the child is fine after a few hours. Now imagine, Kaush, that the doctor says to you, are you so stupid? You mean you don't know what to do? This is just an easy problem. Come on, you should be so smart. You shouldn't be, come on. It's not your job to be a doctor, right?
Yeah. And now
it's not your job to be a doctor. The doctor's job is to be a doctor. So the doctor knows stuff that you don't know. So also your staff at the office, they're not IT people. To you, it might look like, oh, that is so dumb. You should know that. You should know the answer. But that's not their job. You see, if everybody knew the answer to everything, a lot of people won't have any work to do. For example, if all you guys knew about this course, you wouldn't come to my class, and then I wouldn't get a job, I wouldn't get paid. And Sam wouldn't get paid. And Mark wouldn't get paid. No job for us because you guys are all so super knowledgeable about everything already, right? So nobody has the answer to everything. So don't feel proud, right? Or tell other people they're stupid because they don't know what you know. It's your job to know it. Okay? So the next thing here says identify the symptoms. What are symptoms? Something is messing up my, okay. What are symptoms? Arch, what does that mean? Symptoms.
Causes of the problem.
The causes of the problem? Is that what a symptom is?
Yeah, sorry, the causes of that.
The symptom is the cause of the problem? Think about it.
Result of the problem.
Maybe it's the problem itself.
Well, the word symptoms, this is a medical word.
Like, yeah, it's like
What are symptoms
what
mean?
kind of result got after problem, like that.
Say it again.
What kind of result got after the problem? Like, if that happened, what kind of things? What like?
Okay.
Troubles.
So symptoms. What can you see about the problem? What is happening? Not what caused it. If you, Arch, if you go to the doctor and say, let's say you call the doctor, right, and you say, I've been throwing up all day, right? Then they start asking you questions. Do you have a fever? Is your temperature this way? Are you tired, right? Can you stand? Can you walk? You say, oh, I can't walk. I'm just too tired. I've been sleeping all day. Those are the symptoms, not what caused it. They're not going to say, where did you go? Did you eat? If they want to know what caused it, they're going to say, well, what did you eat this morning, right? Did you go on a very long exercise? Did you stress yourself? That's the cause. But the symptoms is the signs, right? The signs. What is happening? What are you experiencing? How does your head feel? How does your arm feel? All those things. What are the signs, symptoms? So you have to identify the symptoms of a computer problem, right? Like, what can you notice? You just got to, use all, by asking the user, you might have an idea. Determine if anything has changed. Determine if anything has changed. Approach multiple problems individually, right? Sometimes my staff call me and tell me, oh, I can't get to my files, right? I can't get to my files. My password, I can't get to my password. The printer is not working. They tell me like 4 different problems. In fact, when I'm going to one person, Anu, somebody else calls me on the way and says, IT, can you look at my computer? You have all these problems to deal with. What he's saying is you have to approach multiple problems one at a time. One at a time. Right? One at a time. If it's a printer or the computer or the software, maybe somebody wants to install Microsoft Word and they say that they also have a problem with the printer. Let me ask you guys this question. So, one time at the office, this was a while back, I worked in a medical facility, right? So the dental director, right, the dentist, the director, she called me and said, we have I need you to solve this problem. We can't see the patients yet because we have a problem on the system. I said, okay. Now, before she spoke to me, my CEO had told me to come for a meeting in his office. So it was on my way to that meeting with my CEO that the dental director called me and said, the patients are waiting outside. Can you help us fix this problem on the system? Now, what do you guys think? Should I have gone to my CEO's meeting or help the director, the dental director out? That's a real problem that happened. So let's talk about it. May, what do you think?
Uh, I don't know how to choose.
No, you think about it. I had a meeting with the CEO. While I was going there, the dental director called me and said, the patients are waiting. The system has a problem. Can you help us out? What would you do?
Just like talk to the CEO, that situation, and then maybe the CEO ask you go and then you go.
Okay, so I should go to the CEO first.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what do you think? Oh, fired. Who said fired? Okay, Lynn, tell me, Lynn, what would you do? Would you go to the CEO first, or would you go to the dental director to help them out with the system?
I go to second way.
What?
Not going to CEO. Same as me.
You go to the CEO. Okay, Alex, what would you do? Go to the CEO?
Maybe I would have to go to the dentist first, then explain to the CEO that why I had to choose the dentist director first.
So why would you choose the? So what would you explain later? Why would you go to the dental director first?
Because it was an emergency.
What kind of emergency? What kind of emergency, Alex?
Like the guest waiting outside, right?
Well, you're right. You're right. You have patients waiting outside, right? So it's an emergency. So you know what I did? You know what I did? I went to the dental director, and it took such a long time. The CEO had to look for me, was looking for me, like, where are you? So I told the CEO, oh, I was coming to your office, but I had to go to the dental director. He said, come into my office right now. So I went to his office. He was so mad. You know why he was mad? He was mad. He said, I have no problem with you going to the dental director, but you should have told me, send me a text or something, right? Or like May said, come to me quickly and say, I have to go to the dental director. There's an emergency there, like Alex said. But I didn't tell him at all. I just went to the dental director, and he was waiting for me and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. So he said, next time, you got to come and tell me or text me or something, or tell somebody to tell me that you have to deal with an emergency. So, Lynn, I didn't get fired. So that's what you do, right? So you have to know how to deal with a problem. You learn. It takes time, but you learn. Okay, well, let's go all the way down to the questions. You guys have an idea of what this chapter is about. It's about troubleshooting, problem solving. Now, not only IT people, I mean, let's say you walk in a grocery store, right? You walk at Target or Stop and Shop, or you walk at Best Buy, right? Or you walk in a dentist's office, or you walk as a nurse. Everyone has to be able to troubleshoot somehow. If a patient comes into the office, and they're complaining of a problem, and you are the assistant, you have to be able to ask questions, right? What's going on? What's wrong with the child? Has the child been eating? What is happening? There's troubleshooting and asking questions in every area of life, especially with computers, because you don't know what the problem is, right? You're not always so sure. So let's go to the questions, and let's see, what we can find here. right, Couch, we're going to go with you for the first question here.
You can find the answer in when troubleshooting a computer problem. Which of the following are steps you can take to identify the problem? Choose two. Troubleshooting computer problem. Talk to end users. Origin of the issue. Talk to the end users. Isolate the issues.
Are you choosing those two?
Yes, B and C.
So what is it? What is end user, Couch? What does that mean? End user.
If I use me last.
Yeah.
Couch, what is end user?
Who's the one using that?
Exactly. The end user is the person using the computer. You see, you have all these IT terms that can confuse you and sound so big, like end user. What is that? The end user is just the person who uses the computer. Or let's say the last person to use the computer, sort of, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you are the end user on your computer. Okay, so you're choosing those two. What does isolate mean? Isolate the issue. That's the second one you chose, right?
Yes.
What does isolate mean? That's another term there. Who knows what isolate means, guys?
Recognize the issue. Recognize
what are
or
the
separate.
Separate the issue.
Well, it's like what we just said now. Dealing with every individual issue. So let's see, isolate. All right, so right here, it says cause A to be or remain alone or apart, right? You want to make sure you know the specifics of what is going on with that problem, right? Isolate means that you have figured out what it is. You know, it's not this here, it's not this. You know, it's like somebody comes to the hospital complaining of problems, right? You know, it's not the food, it's not the exercise that they did. You kind of figure out what the exact problem is. Or somebody takes their car to the mechanic, right, to the shop to be fixed. So the mechanic is going to try everything. Is it the tires? Is it the engine? Is it this part, that part? Finally, they tell you, oh, it's the battery. We know what the problem is. Your battery needs to be changed. So you isolate the problem. You figure out the specific problem, right? So Kaush, you're selecting B and C. And Juman, do you agree with Kaush?
I think A, use external resources such as the internet, and isolate the issue. C.
So A and C.
Yes.
So you're not selecting talk to the end users.
Sometimes can I use my computer? I am the end user.
Yeah, but we're talking about you're working in an office and you're talking to co-workers. You're trying to troubleshoot a computer problem for the co-worker, not for yourself, for your co-worker. So how are you going to know what the problem is if you don't ask the person using the computer?
Yes, when we work in office and another PC, then I ask individual.
Yeah. So what options are you selecting? It says choose two.
Um, then B and C.
Same thing with couch. B and C.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, let's see what the answer is here. So chapter 11, question 1. All right. So B and C, you guys are right. It says here to identify the problem. To identify the problem, you can talk to users. Very important. Talk to users, gather information, and isolate the issue. Now it says using external resources such as the internet is part of the process, right? To establish a probable cause. So if you want to know what caused it, then you might check the internet, right? Like what caused this problem, right? But in terms of trying to troubleshoot and and solve the problem, or figure out what the problem is, talk to end users and isolate the issue. Okay. All right, let's go back here. The thing with troubleshooting is never, there's actually more than one answer that you could have. Right, Alex? There's more than one answer you could have. So I mean, it's an exam, so there's obviously a specific answer you have to choose. But when you're troubleshooting, it's not always very clear cut what the what steps you have to take, right? Sometimes, I mean, I out of experience, right? Sometimes you hear a problem and you know what the answer is, right? Because you've dealt with it you've done it so many times. In fact, when you're working in IT, after you've worked there for a while, it's very rare to have a problem that you've never heard about. Right? It's like when people go to the doctor, right? Most of the cases are things that they know about. In very few times, the doctor is like, "Oh, well, we haven't seen this before." Right? So, all right. Next question, Lynn. That's for you.
You're troubleshooting a MacBook Pro. When it turns on, you receive a screen with a flashing question mark. What is the likely cause? Cause.
What's the cause? What you see a question mark on the screen, flashing, right? What caused it? So let's look at this here. Let's look at we have to read some of the info here. So let's see, question mark. Okay, let's look at Mac here. Okay. So right here we have some some kind of solutions, or I guess some. Okay, this is it. Okay, this is right here, Lynn. This is it right here. Right here. It's
Question mark.
my highlighter is not doing a very good job today for some reason. On a Mac, the hard drive must have a system folder that contains such items as accessories, fonts, system utilities, plus the system file and folder. Okay. Now, since the question mark icon right here, the question mark icon appears in this folder, appears if this folder is missing or corrupted or doesn't contain the needed file. So there's a folder called a system folder, Lynn.
Mm.
That folder has to have all these items there. It says that if you don't have, if any of those items is missing,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to see a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
1 second here.
Memory failure.
Question mark. All right, Lynn, this is what it is. See this right here?
Yes.
Have you ever seen this yourself?
No.
You have a Mac, right?
I have Mac, but I never see it on my computer.
Okay, well, if you see it, now you know, oh, I saw that before. I know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
So that's what it is, a question mark on the Mac computer. Okay. All right, so that's what it says right there. If you see that question mark, then the system folder is missing some items, right? The system file or system folder is missing some items. Okay, so let's go back there. All right, so Lynn, do you see the answer yet? Oh, it still doesn't tell us the answer, right? Device driver failure, video card memory failure, hard drive failure.
Memory
Okay,
failure.
Let's go back. Is it memory, you said?
No,
Yes.
that's Benjamin said. I don't think it's memory.
Look at that.
Yeah, hard drive.
Hard drive.
Yeah, so answer is
Yeah, the hard drive.
D.
So it's D?
Yeah.
Oh, this chapter 1, chapter 11. All right, you're right, Lynn. It's D.
Yeah.
Nice job. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Arch, next question is for you. Review questions. My Wi-Fi is slowing down my system. Usually I don't use Wi-Fi, so it's taking a while for some reason. I don't like to use Wi-Fi. So my pages are getting stuck. I can't seem to move. Look at that. If you have the book, you can probably see the question yourself. Okay, well, it's opening up right now. Let's go back there. All right. Arch, when providing computer support and testing solutions, what should you always do first? What do you think? We have to go and look at the book, but what do you think?
Like test person, test some.
Number 3.
Yeah. Try to find out, like, test that thing first. Test the simple solution, simple stuff.
Test the simple stuff first. When you're trying, what should you do first? Okay, now look at that. Oh, this is contingency, not that. Okay, so right here, identifying the problem. Now, see what it says here. This part. It says, while this may seem obvious, it can be overlooked. If you can't define the problem, you can't begin to solve it. Sometimes problems are relatively straightforward, but other times they're just a symptom of a bigger issue. So it looks like you might be right there, but we have to go and check what the answer is. So what he's saying is, I think what he's saying here is sometimes look for, okay, wait a minute, let's go back here actually. Okay, well, look at this here. Yep, look at that. So it says troubleshooting can be broken down into the following steps. So it looks like the first thing is, wait a second here. This part here says some things about first, second, third. All right. Identify the problem. All right, so let's see what it is. Arch says identify the problem. So which sounds like you might be right. Let's see what he's saying here. Yep, you're right. So question 3, always test the simple stuff first. Now, what does that mean, Arch? By test the simple stuff.
Like first try out what you have, then go deep, like that.
Yep. Yeah, things that look obvious to you. Like if somebody says, my keyboard does not work, what will you do, Arch? What's the first thing you might want to do?
Check the plug is correct or not.
Say it again.
Whether it is the plug is connected or not, then
Exactly. Yep. Go ahead.
and then I will check the key whether it's pressing is correct, like that.
Okay.
Any problem?
Now imagine if somebody called you to and say my keyboard doesn't work, right? Then you say, okay, let me ask you some questions first. So how many times have you used this keyboard? When did you buy this keyboard? How much was this keyboard when you bought it? You're like, what? Why are you asking me all those questions? You know, how much did you buy the keyboard? What's the manufacturer of the keyboard? It's like, hey, you're getting to, you know, you're wasting time. Like Art said, pull out the keyboard and stick it back in, and that might just be the end of the problem, right? So test the simple stuff first. Don't make things complicated. Like, oh, I know if somebody calls you and says my keyboard doesn't work, then you say, oh, I have to go and research the internet. Let me get back to you in 2 hours. Say what? Really? Okay. So test the simple stuff first, you know. Keep it simple. All right, I know the next question is for you, so let's see what it is here. Okay, number 4.
Your computer has been running backup for a year. Today, you make a change from backing it up to an external optical drive to backing it up to the cloud. What should you do next?
Okay, wait a second. Before we look at the answer or the answer options, and what's a backup?
Saving your files. Backup.
Saving your file is a backup?
Yeah. Backup means you have to save the system, right? Save your files. In a hard drive or an external hard drive, you can take the files and save it.
So you mean saving copies, not just saving the same file. You save copies of that file.
Yes.
That's a backup, right? So if you say I want to back up my computer, your computer files are already saved on your computer. Now you save those same files to a different system. That's a backup. Now, why do you need to do a backup, Anu? Why is that important? Is it important?
Yeah, it is important. That is your work. Otherwise, if some computer corrupted or if you lost, like if anything happened wrong, our backup will save us.
Okay. All right. Now, if we go to, because this chapter has a lot of stuff to say about backups here. So let's go. All right. It has a whole section on backing up. So let's see a few things here. Okay, right here, data backups. So it says here that when you're thinking about backup, right, when considering backup options, it says you got to ask yourself some questions when you're thinking about backing up, right? How often should you back up, right? The best recommendation, Anu, for backing up is every day, right? Everyday data. You know, let me tell you guys one sad story, very sad, right? When I was a new IT person, my boss used to tell me to back up all the work for the day at the end of the day, right? So I'm supposed to leave the office at 4:30. That's when you know, time up. That's my closing time, right? That's when my work ends at 4:30. but my boss tells me that we can only start backing up at 4:30 when everybody's about to leave. So I tell him, you mean I have to wait behind and do the backup? He said, yeah, you have to do that. I used to be so mad about it, right? So sometimes I'll do the backup, sometimes I wouldn't do it. Sometimes I'll do it, sometimes I wouldn't do it, right? Lynn, do you know what happened? What happened?
Just
What?
You sometimes you save that sometimes you don't say that, just is about the habit.
Exactly. It became such a bad habit, right?
Yeah.
That a long time after that, this boss of mine, he left the company, right? I became the boss, and I still never used to back up because I was it's just a bad habit. One day, we have this power outage, like a massive power outage for about 30 minutes, right? So the power came back, and everybody was like, okay, let's get everything back. Let's get back to work. I said, okay, give me a second. Let me go back and just turn on all the servers and put everything back on. I put everything back on, and nothing is working. I press the buttons, I put everything back on again, do it over and over again. Nothing is working. At this point, my heart is pounding. Like, what is happening? Cut long story short, we lost all our data. We couldn't get into anything. So now, Alex, people were telling me, so you have a backup, right? You have a backup, right? You have backup of your files, right? You have backup, right? Just get the backup and let's get back to work. So I went into my office, Anu. I locked the door and I said to myself, you are in big trouble. You are in serious trouble, because I knew that I didn't have any backups for years. It was a bad habit of mine. I was in people. My boss was knocking on the door, and everybody was banging on my door. And I said, "Give me a minute. Give me a minute. You know, I'm working on it. I'm working on it." I wasn't doing anything. I was like, "What am I gonna do here?" It was really bad. It was really bad. So I called Dell Computers. They are partners. I tell them the problem. They're like, "You have backups, right?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't think I have backups." Okay, you know what? The system that we set up for you guys, it has automatic backups. I said, "Really?" I said, "I didn't do." He said, "Yeah." They said the system we set up for you, it has automatic backups. In fact, the backup system, and I'm going to show you guys now, when they explained to me that the backup system is called RAID, RAID. Now, I didn't know what they were talking about, but they told me, they said, look, all you need to do is the RAID, it has about 5 hard drives. 5 hard drives in that RAID system. There are 5 hard drives. Their job, right, is to automatically back up everything you're doing, even if you don't know about it. I said, okay, so can I get it back right now? They said, no. You have to take it to a technician who can extract the data for you. Okay. So I said, who is the technician? Can you tell me? They said, that's your problem. We told you how to solve the problem. Now go and find the technician yourself. I said, okay. So eventually, I found a guy in Cambridge, near Fresh Pond. It took him about 3 days. but they got all the data back because of this system called RAID. Now, let me show you what the system is here. Let me scroll down here. Right here, where is it? Let me just type it in here, RAID. Okay. All right, so look at this part here. You see this picture, where? Let me just show you the picture. Okay, you see this picture here? Lynn, you see this picture? So this is a system, right? A kind of a setup on a server. The way this is set up, right? It is set up to automatically back up files. So let's see how it describes it. This RAID system that I said, right? This RAID system. So right here. Okay, so there's something we call data redundancy, right? Redundancy. What's redundancy? Redundancy is when you create so many, should I say, copies of the same thing, right? Or you have so many, should I say,
Duplicates? Duplicates?
You can say duplicate. That's a good word. You can say duplicates, right? Many duplicates, so that if one fails, you just go to the other one or the other one. You have so many of it. Redundancy, right? So that's a good, actually, I like that word, duplicate. So right here, it says, if you look at this section here, it says there are ways that you can add additional hard drives to a computer and get the benefits beyond storage, right? So your server is going to do some storage, right? But more importantly, it says right here, you can make your disk read or write a little faster, and you can also create fault tolerance by having extra protection against disk failures, right? Extra protection against disk failures. You can do this by implementing RAID. See, the servers that were set up in my company, in my office, I didn't realize it, but they were set up with this RAID configuration, right? And so it was a relief for me to find out eventually. Now it says, what I say about RAID here, it says RAID stands for, what to say? RAID stands for Redundant Array of Independent Disks, which is basically multiple physical hard drives, hard disk, right? They all work together. Some of them back up data for you, right? And they increase your performance. So it's a very effective system, right? So you have different RAID systems, or should I say versions, right? You have RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, and I think RAID 10 is probably the last one. But the most common will be RAID 0, RAID 1, and RAID 5. RAID 5 is actually the most useful, right? So that was what we had, but let's see what it is here. So if you look at RAID 0, the way it describes RAID 0 there, basically, you need to have 2 hard drives, right here. It says data is written right across multiple drives. So you essentially have 2 drives reading or writing the same data at once. This makes for faster data access. However, look at the next line. However, It says if one of the drives fails, all the content is lost. Right? So that's not the best option. That RAID 0 is not the best option. It allows you to access your data faster because they're on two different drives, but it doesn't have a backup system. If one of them fails, you're in trouble. Now we go to the next one, RAID 1. RAID 1, RAID 1 has, let's see what RAID 1 does here. If one drive fails, the other contains all of the data and will become the primary drive. Okay, so with RAID 1, it's not so fast, but if one drive fails, you can access your information on the other drive, right? Now, the best option is RAID 5. So RAID 5, it combines, the speed of RAID 0, right, and the reliance or redundancy of RAID 1 in RAID 5. So RAID 5 has to have, I think it has to have how many drives here? About five drives. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so right here, all right, so look at that part there. It says, if one drive fails, the parity information for the stripes that lost data can be, actually, that's not what I want to read. What I want to read is the first part here. Yeah, this part here. Okay, now RAID 5 combines, we're going to wrap this up now. We have just a few minutes more. It combines the benefits of RAID 0 and RAID 1. It creates a redundant stripe volume set. That is, all the disks work together, right? So each stripe, every time you save the files, it places the data on all the drives except one, right? Except one. So it's a bit of a complicated topic. I had to do a lot of study myself, back in the day to understand it. But basically, it's a very effective system. So what you have here is, this is RAID 0 here on the left, RAID 1 on the left side, right? If disk 0 fails, disk 1 will work. Now with RAID 5, you actually have 4 disks, right? You have 4 different disks doing the work, but the point is, with RAID 5, it is both fast and reliable, right? If one of the drives fails, your data is sure to be on the other drives, right? So like I said, I didn't know that we had that set up, and that was what really helped us to get back all our data, right? So when IT people set up servers, this is one of the, should I say, setups, or one of the configurations that they want to have on their server, the RAID system, so that the data, they can access the data in a quick and fast way, and also so that if a drive fails at any point, the data is never lost. You just have to find the right people who can extract the data for you, but the data is not lost. Right? So I'm not going to go into all the technical details here, but that's basically what you are doing there when you use that RAID system. All right? And it's all part of backing up your computers and your servers in the company. So on Wednesday, we're going to look at a bit more of data, how you back up data, and how you prepare for if anything goes wrong, what do you do, right? What do you do, okay? All right, so let's just end it right there, and then we're going to take it up again on Wednesday. Anybody has a question? Just gonna stop sharing right now. Any questions?
Actually, I have. There is no recording. Last class recording was not there.
Yeah, because the last class was, I mean, I didn't record it on purpose because it was just a summary of what we did in the last chapter, right?
So, is there any this recording will be there? Or
Yeah, well, I can put the recording there. I just didn't think that you guys needed it because it was more like just a conversation, a discussion. So, you want it? I'll put it there. I didn't know that you guys watched the recordings. I just thought it was there and nobody cared about it. So, Arch, you watch the recordings?
yes.
Okay, well, that's great to know. All right, so I'll put it there.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's stop this recording right now.